Hi, I'm Bev Owens, and I'm a psychic medium from here in the UK.
Hey, and I'm Karen Skolke, psychic medium from the USA, and we're two mediums, one large universe.
Joining us tonight are our special guests, psychic medium Katie Rayner and Carlin Julie Beattie.
I'm going to come to you, Kate, to talk to you about not so much all of your experiences in terms of the paranormal, but what's your first recollection of an experience that you'd call paranormal?
I'm guessing when my grandfather died, I'm trying to think how old I would have been. So I would have been 7 or 8. And I can remember going down to the outskirts of Brighton to be with the rest of my family and everybody being really upset. And I can remember sitting behind the sofa in my nan's house, and my grandfather was sat at the side of me. And honestly, it completely freaked me out. But because I was at that age where I didn't quite understand death, I wasn't sure if that was normal or not.
Oh, bless you.
And bless him, he's continued to pop up now and again randomly throughout my life, which sort of led me onto my spiritual journey, if you like, because I attended Spiritualist Church one evening and coming home, looked in my rearview mirror to pull out into a junction, and he was sat in my back seat, bless him, and absolutely scared the crap out of me.
I think it would have me. That's the thing as well. You know, fear can get in the way, can't it? So going back to when you first saw your granddad, did you tell anybody, or did you feel you could?
No, I didn't tell a soul. I didn't tell a soul because when you were younger, people didn't talk about people dying, did they? So I wasn't really sure what it was or what it meant or anything. So I didn't say anything to anybody.
Wow.
So yeah, it's strange. Obviously, I would now, and I encourage my kids, if they see anything, to tell me. But at the time,
this brings me nicely to my little bro, who's had tons of experiences. But something I was thinking about today, Carlos, was when we were very, very little, you had an invisible friend, didn't you? Do you remember having an invisible friend?
I can never remember having an invisible friend.
Do you know what? I remember Mum saying it all the time. And you had I don't even know whether you remember this, but you had because obviously I'm a little bit older than our Carl, you had a blue bedroom wall. And this particular day, he got black crayon and he'd made such an unholy mess all over this wall and was really upset and blamed his invisible friend to Mum. Do you remember that?
No.
Yeah, you absolutely did. And I can remember seeing the wall. It was like crazy. It was everywhere. So it makes me think whether your sort of experiences started a lot sooner than you thought.
Or I was just trying to get out of trouble.
Well, maybe so. I mean, I was in the room next door, lying under the blankets, trying not to faint because I couldn't breathe because I was hiding from what I thought was witches in the bedroom. So it makes you wonder, doesn't it?
I can't remember that.
Yeah, that's madness, isn't it? But unlike me, so I've been really intrigued with, I think I was probably intrigued with it, but there's a certain level of trepidation with you, isn't there, with the spirit world? The way it's been presented to me, I think, has been a bit more gentle than how Carl's experiences have gone. Mm-hmm. Would you like to share with us one of your experiences then?
I was just thinking about this, when I was younger, and this was wasn't a spirit experience. It was an experience where I went up to my dad's bedroom when we were living in Immingham, mm-hmm. and my dad was in bed smoking a cigar. So I just waved at him, thinking, "Oh, that's nothing unusual about that." Then I went back downstairs, and my dad was downstairs. So whatever I'd seen in that bedroom, I have no idea what it was.
Oh my goodness!
No clue what it was. It was, like I say, literally, I waved, and then went downstairs. And my dad was downstairs.
Yeah, I always said our dad was a bit dodgy. Maybe he was a shapeshifter.
Maybe.
So were you scared?
I was when I went downstairs.
Yeah.
When I found out actually it wasn't him.
And did you tell Dad?
I don't know whether I did or not. I think it was one of those things where you're like, oh, he's just going to call you crackers.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. But I couldn't explain it, so I'm like, I have no idea. No.
That is strange. I've heard some stories similar to that. And there's somebody who does another podcast and writes stories, mm-hmm. and he's done some particular stories just like that. And there's one where this chap took his wife out for dinner, all the way to a restaurant, sat having dinner with her. And she was a bit more chatty than usual, but that's all he noticed. And she went off to the toilet. And as she'd gone off to the toilet, his actual wife came tearing into the restaurant saying, "Why the bloody hell didn't you wait for me? I was running to the car and you'd gone." And he'd been sat having a meal with somebody he thought was his wife. So,
Wow.
yeah. How do you work that one out? Somehow, maybe that was you.
Yeah, maybe. I think one of the spirit ones, I think this would have been about 3 months ago. I kept getting visited by a lady in a white dress, and that was, that she literally just floated above me. She had long blonde hair, and it was an really old white dress that she used to wear. But it got to the point where it felt uncomfortable after a while. So that's when I had to have that little light on, because I thought I don't want to keep getting visited by this whatever this spirit was.
And were you fully awake and lucid when this would happen then?
Yeah. Like I say, it was very visual. But first time I was like, oh, she's not here to hurt me, but it was just uncomfortable.
Did you have any sense of who it might be?
Absolutely none. The only one that I've sensed might be that visited me was the one I told you about, Bev, the one from the Lockerbie.
Maybe you should start that whole story so that the guys get a sense of what went on there.
Yeah. So when I was in the Air Force, 1988 it was actually, my camp, we had to go and find the bodies of Lockerbie.
You know, the aircraft disaster, the big aircraft.
So there was it was a 747 that crashed, had a bomb on board. We had to go and find the bodies, and the only person I looked at, because I thought the only thing you'll ever remember is somebody's face. So the only person I ever looked at was this one guy, and this guy has visited me a few times. And you can see him as clear as day. Never says anything, but you can see him as clear as day. Because it was funny. I woke up, saw his face, I screamed, knew there was nothing horrible about it. Julie was in bed next to me. She was like, "What are you screaming at?" Oh, it's just a figure there. I went back to sleep and she couldn't sleep that night.
Sharing's caring.
Yeah.
And how long after Lockerbie did that happen, would you say?
Oh, crikey. Well, I've seen him a few times. I'd say it would only be in the last 5 years that I've started to see him. I haven't seen him for a while, like.
I wonder if it's just because you're quite open and that, it maybe as you get older and a bit more open. What do you guys think?
I don't know. Is he trying to just say thank you or give you a message of some sort? Because why is he so persistent?
Yeah, I don't know. Every spirit that's visited me, I've never communicated with.
That's been your choice then, hasn't it?
Yeah, I've never really wanted to. Whereas Beverly, you have, and I've just never opened up to that side. Yeah, I've felt some evil spirits though.
Tell us more. Welcome to Ghost Talk with Carl.
Yeah. When I was in Corfu, I basically I don't think we'd been out that long, and went back to the room, and there was another lad with us in the same room, and then I just turned my head, and there was this black spirit at the end of my bed, and it was really dark black outline spirit, but it felt really, really evil. This spirit, it was awful. So I woke him up and said, "Mate, can you see that?" And he said he could see it, but then it just disappeared. But then he left me the next night, so I was in the room on my own, slept with the light on.
That is unusual for you both to be able to see it, isn't it? So when you say you knew it was evil, what made you say that?
It's I don't know. I just get a presence. Well, it was the same as at the TSB Bank when I went up there. Whatever was up there was evil.
Yeah.
It gives you that really down feeling.
Yeah.
That, it's horrible. It was really oppressive. The feeling that let's say, literally got to the doorway when I went up to the TSB. Well, you've done it, haven't you?
Yeah.
Went up to the TSB, and as soon as I got to this doorway, it was like somebody was pushing really down on you, and it was like, I don't want to go in there. That is just horrible. When I went in, crossed the threshold, got into the room, got back to where the door was, and it was oppressive again. So I'm like, right, let me get out of here. So I wanted to get out.
So Carl worked in this particular bank, didn't you? That had lots of spirit activity. There was lots of things going on, weren't there? And I actually went up with him one particular day, didn't I, to go and have a look. So I can vouch for what he's saying when you went up. I actually had caught some things on camera in the room as well, didn't I?
Yeah.
Okay.
That TSB thing, because me and another lad had never been up the stairs before. We got to the second landing and we heard a big bang. And he said to me, "Oh, is there somebody up there? Somebody's trying to scare us." Oh, mate, there's nobody up here. And that was the first bit we went. And it was like, say, I don't know what the big bang was. We got up there and there's nothing. But then we got to the spirit, that door, and it was like, say, impressive. I don't know what it was. I don't think so. Something didn't want us there anyway. That was for sure.
Yeah.
What happened there? What happened there in the past? Anything? What was that building used for?
I don't actually know, because you tried to find out, Bev, didn't you?
It was steeped in history, Karen. There was so many old documents and things up there, and it was untouched. But I think it had been lived in that particular part, hadn't it, Carl?
Yeah.
And it was just, there was something odd in there. I used one of the, when we're doing paranormal investigations, Katie and I use the Stickman camera, but you can I had an app on the phone and we picked up some clear imaging in this room, and it was really, there was something about the entrances. It would always be in the entrances where you could actually feel this. It was strong and not terribly welcoming.
No.
That was probably the portal then.
Maybe. I know me and our Carl had a very different opinion of it, because he's like, it was a bit of a Scooby-Doo moment. I'm not going in there, run downstairs sort of thing. And I'm a bit like, let's see what this is then and see if we can capture something. It's just that, difference. But the room was definitely spooky. And I don't think I actually even got into the part that the main activity was in. So goodness knows what that was like. Welcome, Julie. Nice to see you.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, good, thank you. So this is my sister-in-law, Julie. We were just discussing all our spooky experiences and just talking about the bank that Carl worked in, where there was a lot of activity that was frightening the girls, wasn't there? I didn't feel as much as they were experiencing, but sometimes I think, and you girls who are mediums here will attest to this, fear can just attract everything towards you and just intensify. So if you're frightened of spirit, and I think this counts for you, Carl, as well, your vibration goes quite low, and it's sort of, I don't know, it opens you up a bit to lower vibrational energy. But with any spirit, it's, if you are scared, just say, leave me alone, please. Go towards the light or leave me alone. And if, like, your Lockerbie chap, if he comes again, it might be worth asking if there's something he wants to say.
Well, I'll get Julie to do that when I wake her up.
I can imagine how that'll go.
I still can't believe he did that.
I know, you laid awake while he's snoring afterwards. So I do have to say, guys, Carl's underplaying how scared he was with this white lady that he was talking about earlier as well, because I have the salt lamps, the Himalayan salt lamps, and I gave Carl one, and he kept that on in his room as the ghost lamp to ward away spirits, and slept with that on pretty much every night, didn't you, for quite a while?
I slept. I think I slept with that for a week.
Yeah.
I think it might have been longer, Carl.
You've been outed. So Julie's got something fresh in her mind to talk to us. And it's not a ghost story, but I thought it's a really lovely story. So did you want to say, Jo?
Oh, God. I don't know. I think it's just it's weird.
You might have to describe the backstory as well.
Yeah. Well, are you talking about, like, me and my sister, the link we've got? For only about 18 months difference between me and my sister. And we've always had, like, what we call this witchy connection. And I know Carl would probably agree that we are witches. But we have a very uncanny timing, and we always sort of, like, agree on a lot of things, or we preempt what the other one's going to say. It's weird. But we went to the theatre on Friday, And whenever we go out, we have a kitty purse. So it's like a purse with all of the money for the night or for the meal and things like that. So anyway, Paula said, "Oh, I've got Mum's kitty purse." Well, we lost Mum, 2009, and that was to cancer. And again, that was another strange one. She got diagnosed with cancer, and she loved Christmas, and she wrote on the calendar, "Just let me see Christmas Day," and she died on Christmas night. So she was quite, like this as well. But anyway, back to this purse. I said, "Oh, well, I've got the normal kitty purse." And I said, "Oh, let's just take Mum along with us." So sister went to the bar and she bought the first round of drinks, and she found something in the bottom of the purse. And when she pulled it out, it was a photograph from a newspaper that up here in the Northeast, we put like birthday messages in the newspaper, local newspaper. And it was her photograph with her 60th birthday celebration in it. So that was scrumpled up in the bottom corner of the purse. And then we just looked at each other in shock, because I'd said, "Oh, let's just take Mum with us." And we took the purse, and there's my mum's photograph in the purse. So then we just looked at each other, and we both sort of just raised our glasses, and without saying to one another, we just both went to Mum straight away. And just, again, it was just one of those random moments where we kind of like are in each other's head. It's weird.
I love that.
Yeah. So yeah, we've done that a few times actually with because we've got tattoos for Dad just recently. Dad's been diagnosed with dementia. So we're both sitting, because we've got a tattoo for Mum as well. But we were looking for tattoos, and we both found, working separately, we both picked out the same elephant, because an elephant never forgets. And the picture of the elephant, we didn't like what it was holding in its trunk, so we both picked out some forget-me-nots for the Alzheimer's, and they were both the same flower. So it was, again, just random, picked out the same pictures and got the tattoos. So weird.
See, this sounds like a psychic connection between you and your sister here, doesn't it? What do you guys think?
Yes.
Really, yeah.
So, yeah, maybe you are witches.
We'll always, as well, if there's something, I'll do it with you sometimes, Bev, as well. It's, you'll just sort of send a message and say, "Are you all right?"
Yeah.
And it's, something, yeah, it's weird.
Yeah. And that is working on that psychic level. I've no doubt, Julie, that, well, I've seen how intuitive you are, and obviously Carl is. He just likes to dial it down. I feel a bit sorry for Carl, actually, guys, because as mediums, we get to speak to spirit, and lots of times they'll come through our mind, work there clairvoyantly. It's not that often that we'll see them physically with our eyes, or we'll hear them audibly, direct voice. Whereas Carl's different. His experiences are all like that, waking up with faces in his face. And that's got to be terrifying, hasn't it?
I'd rather have it your way.
Yeah, definitely.
Feed in my mind rather than in front of my face.
Maybe that's what they're trying to get you to do, though.
Because you have the gift so strongly, you know what I mean, that you would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Bev always says this to me, and I'm like, I'll leave that side to you.
Maybe they're just going to keep on knocking till you show up.
Yeah, well, I haven't seen anything for a while. But one of the weirdest experiences was, remember this, Julie, when I used to have dreams about plane crashes.
Yeah.
And then the next day, a plane had crashed. I had about 3 or 4 dreams about plane crashes, and planes would crash either in that week or the next day. So, that was weird.
Prophetic dream. That must have been awful, because tell the guys your job that you did at the time.
Yeah, I was working in the Air Force, air defence, controlling aircraft and things like that.
That must have been doubly terrifying.
Yeah, well, it put me off. I was no way going flying at all. You know what I mean? If I'd have had a holiday booked, I would have cancelled it.
Yeah.
It was that strong a feeling. So
maybe I should book my next airline ticket through you.
Yeah, let me a travel agent.
Yeah,
run a passport before.
But, a lot of the stuff is now sort of not happening as such.
So, Katie, I'm going to come to you now, love. In terms of paranormal experiences, we've had in fact, we've had some funny ones, haven't we, you and I together?
We have, yeah. I'm going to tell you one that I had a little while ago when Steve and I first got together. We rented a house in a local town, and my dad is a massive non-believer of anything. And there was an area in the part of the house in the extension that was a lot colder, and I always felt uncomfortable in there. And the upstairs of it was a spare bedroom, and quite often we would hear toys going off in the night because Diesel was still quite small. So little musical toys would go off in the middle of the night, and nobody ever sort of went in that room. It just had a bit of an eerie feeling. So one Christmas, my parents had decided that they were going to stay with us overnight. So we all went off to bed. In fact, I think it was Christmas Eve. We all went off to bed, and about 2:00 in the morning, my parents are screaming their heads off, coming out saying, "We're never staying here again," and literally frog marching themselves out of the door. I was like, oh my God, what's happened? And in there was a Velux window, and this Velux window had a Velux blind. It was fitted. We'd never had any problems with it. It was constantly down. And anyway, in the middle of the night, this blind had unhooked itself from the actual window and had been thrown on my dad on the bed, and he absolutely, really terrified. And they refused to stay there.
Oh, God. Well, you can't blame them, can you?
But there was a strange thing in that house. And the lady that did own it, her husband died there. So we weren't certain if it was him and whether he just took a dislike to my dad. I don't know. But there was something definitely in there. And I wasn't working as a medium there, so I never connected with it. So, but quite a few people said that they had, saw things out of the corner of their eye and they didn't like that part of the room.
Yeah.
But when we actually moved into the house, we had everything still in packing boxes and sealed up. And we'd moved in on the Saturday daytime and slept overnight. Sunday morning, I got up to go to the toilet, and the bathroom was in this part of the house that we didn't really were keen on. And I was sat having a wee, and all of a sudden this pearl materialised out of thin air, bounced on the tile floor. I was still in mid-wee, absolutely screamed, flew up, stick me in, flew into the bedroom, and actually heard this pearl bead dropping along the floor. So I don't know where that had come from. So that was a sign of things to come, I think, the day we moved in.
Wow. Was it a pearl of wisdom? I'm sorry, there's always time for comedy. It's funny, Kate, because I bet you were probably quite unnerved in the house then because you hadn't developed. And I suspect now you'd be keen to go back and have a look.
Yeah, definitely.
I would be.
But yeah, I was thinking today about when we went to Arthur Findlay. So we were on a paranormal investigation at the church. It was the first year we went to the church, Kate. And to be fair, there wasn't a lot of activity going on, was there? You can spook each other out, can't you, by thinking you're in a church, it's getting dark, steeped in history, there's dead bodies buried in the actual church, isn't there? It's really, really old. Me and Kate, I wanted the toilet, and it got a quirky little toilet in it, inside the vestry, wasn't it? It was just like this wooden hut thing inside the vestry, and then there's all these creepy pictures outside of these vicars, and they did look quite scary, didn't they? Or priests. Anyway, I went to the toilet and Katie waited outside for me, and then I came out, and we were stood there, weren't we, looking at these things.
We were laughing at some of them, saying about how strange that they looked, and we wondered what had been happening in the vestry.
Yeah, and well, you can tell them what happened next then, Kate, because it's hilarious.
And with that, the toilet door just flung open, didn't it, for no reason whatsoever? And I mean, it was stiff to open, and smacked me on the bum. Well, I couldn't get out there quickly.
all you could see was her running down the aisle, straight out the vestry.
Guess you didn't use it then.
No, you wouldn't go to the toilet there, would you? Yeah, just walloped her straight up the backside.
Did you leave a trail behind you?
Oh, it was quite funny.
Another one when we did the paranormal investigation at the Laser Quest place in Nottingham, and this guy, there was only about 4 of us, wasn't there, 4 or 5 of us that evening, and the guy actually locked us in there and disappeared off. So we were stuck in this building in the pitch black for 2 hours, and we'd set up various equipment, and it was quite eerie because it was dark, wasn't it? It was dismal and damp. We were right down in the middle of this.
It was a basement level, wasn't it? Yeah.
And one of the girls had set up this REM pod bear, and we were coming down the stairs and kicked it, and it went off, and we absolutely
I kicked it because it was pitch black. So yeah, sometimes, I mean, you can get really spooked, and there's nothing to be spooked by, can't you? There wasn't a lot of activity that night. But then when we did that that one at Bellevue,
Yes.
we had so much activity, didn't we? We had we were in a particular room downstairs, weren't we? That was a basement as well, wasn't it? When
Yes, that wasn't it? Yeah.
so we have to say it was a spooky paranormal evening. So although we're credible mediums, there was a bit of artistic stuff going on. So we had like a moon lamp with us, and we're trying to sort of create an ambience, weren't we? Which, you know, we've got quite a few people there, and they were pretty wound up. What we didn't plan on was Spirit pulling this girl's hair extension out. Honest, and then somebody else got clouted on the head, didn't they, with a shelf? It literally moved and just whacked them on. We had loads of activity there. Do you remember telling me about somebody astral traveling?
Yeah, me.
Yeah. Do you want to share that story?
But I don't think it was really astral trap. Well, I didn't let it. I didn't.
The mediums will decide.
Okay. So I literally, it was one of my RAF camps, and I'd literally just got out the bath, so I was really relaxed, laid on the bed, and then all of a sudden I couldn't move, and then I saw the back of my head going out my body. Well, I'd never had anything like that happen to me before, and for some reason I jolted myself back into my body, and it never happened again. But yeah, that scared me. I thought I was dead. I literally thought I was dead. Well, when you see the back of your head going out your body and you can't move, I thought I was dead.
Right. Quick show of hands. How many of us think that Carl's the reluctant medium?
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. I think that's definitely probably you've had more calls to action than most. I don't know how many you're going to keep ignoring. But Stan, my husband, has seen things. And he's experienced things when I've been here, even in this house.
Yeah.
We've heard direct voice where somebody said something. We both looked, we both heard it, and I'll say to him, "Did you hear that?" And he say, "Yeah." He'll rationalize.
He'll debunk it.
Yeah. Even when there's no real way of debunking it. So years ago, when my dad had died, I mean, Dad's been dead about 18 years now, but when he died, I think it was in about the first few months of him dying, I, for some reason, woke up in the middle of the night, and it was pitch black, but I could see as clear as day an outline in the corner of my room, the bedroom, and I put the light on, and it was my dad there, just stood there, and he was wearing the same clothes that he wore in his coffin when I went to see him. But it was strange because he was just looking through me. There was no engagement. I just saw my dad. And I screamed. I just ran out the bedroom. Again, this was before I developed. And I ran down. It was when we lived in Tikal. So I ran through the next room, right down to the far side of the house, to the utility room. And it was when I smoked, and I sat in there chuffing away on a cigarette thinking, oh my God. Stan came and followed me and was trying to sort of calm me down, going, you must have dreamt it. You were half asleep, and don't worry, it's only a few months since your dad died, right? And then blow me, behind him, I saw my dad walk past. And with that, Stan whipped his head round and he saw it too. And he admitted he saw it. And then my dad disappeared. But you talk to Stan now and he's like, there'll have been a rational explanation for it. But what could it have been? I mean, in the end, even though I hadn't developed, I did say, Dad, you're scaring me. And I didn't get that again. So I would urge people that do feel uncomfortable with it. Because, I would love to see my mum again in person. But there's a time and a place. If she jumped in the car seat next to me and I wasn't expecting it, I would absolutely cack myself, So it's got to be by prior arrangement. Don't you agree, Carl?
You just made my Alexa go there, by the way.
Yeah.
How?
I've no idea.
What did it do?
It just beeped.
You didn't even say anything like Alexa.
Well, it's funny you should say that because years ago, I think I've told you this, Karen, we were, it was when I did a circle from home and we were doing a spirit board. And we were talking, and it's Nana Smith came through on the spirit board, Carl. It was clearly her. She was giving some information. And then there was something about technology. Anyway, it was broken words. We got something about technology. We closed the board down, finished doing what we were doing. And a few minutes later, my Alexa piped up and repeated something that had been said on the board. And we were like, so.
That takes me back to our childhood. Remember we did a Ouija board?
The one I remember, tell me if it's the same one. The one I remember is we scared the life out of each other. I think Grandad might have come to it through on it. I remember the name Ernest coming through. We didn't, because we'd heard when we were kids that you have to smash the glass afterwards. Yeah. And, all this sort of stuff. And we did none of it. We panicked because my mum was coming home. So we put the glass in the cupboard.
It was a nice glass.
It was a cut glass, brandy glass. And we had a white sheet on the table as well, didn't we? And we shoved that away. And from what I remember, the glass shattered straight away when in the cupboard. And when my mum washed the sheet, it went pink for some reason. I don't know whether you remember that bit, Carl.
No, I don't remember the sheet bit, but I remember the glass.
And we were all really scared because we couldn't tell my mum because she would have had a fit with us, I think, if she'd have known what we were doing. So, but who amongst us hasn't had a go on a spirit board when we were a kid, trying to frighten each other?
Yeah, we did it. We did it. Oh, crumbs. We must have been about 14, and it was my best friend at the time. And I can't remember. I think it was me, her, and Paula, and just doing it was at her house. Our brother came home and found us doing this Ouija board, and she always used to like to scare him rotten. She ended up pricking her finger with blood and then writing a note in blood to him.
That is so mean.
She was. Can't remember. I don't think we got anything on the Ouija board, but yeah, we got a good laugh out of it afterwards.
Oh, that is so mean.
Yeah, picked a finger and wrote in blood a note.
Oh, that's awful. Karen, is that something that's used over in the States at all?
Yes, it's like a kind of like a teen party, kind of slumber party. You didn't have to break the glass on your own, at least, right?
Yeah.
We were more scared of the ghost or our mum probably broken a glass.
Mum, without a doubt. I would have took our chances with spirit, but not my mum.
Mums are always scarier.
Yeah, definitely.
Quite intuitive.
She was very intuitive, and there were lots of, so like my first experiences that I don't remember, my mum recounted to me when I was little. So I think Carl would be a baby, and it was their first house, and it was in a place called Nunsthorpe, which is renowned for having some major hauntings. And this particular house they lived in, apparently, Mum would hear, I suppose this must have been before Carl was born, they'd hear my cot side go down in the night, and I'd be babbling away to somebody and swear blind it was my granddad, but at the time my granddad was alive. And yeah, so Mum was aware of that. And I do remember she said at one point, she came in and actually shouted at whatever spirit was in the room to leave us alone, because I think she was getting a bit panicky because it was getting more physical. And you would, wouldn't you, if your baby's cot was going down and things like that. So yeah, Mum was very intuitive, but I think she was a bit like Carl in a way. I think she found it a little bit scary, and I think more and more now people are starting to see that you can have conversations with spirit without it being frightening, But we all like to be scared as well, don't we, sometimes?
No. Yeah.
Anybody who watches horror movies, Katie, you're a big fan of horror movies, aren't you?
Yeah.
Movies. Yeah, I like to sort of take yourself to the edge, don't you? So, what was that noise?
No idea.
Did you hear that?
Yeah.
It'd be interesting when you get back to see what it was, because there's been some light anomalies under your angel wings as well.
As though it just sounded like, well, I don't know what it sounded like.
Sounded like, what's that film that Anthony Hopkins signs of the Lambs? You know, when he goes, the can't bit. Beans.
You've got me looking behind me now. See what I mean about sort of, you know, when your heckles get on edge, you can almost make yourself feel worse, can't you? I get why you sort of feel like that sometimes, Carl. Do you ever get spooked, Kate?
Oh yeah. Just so recently as well. I mean, we had at our circle recently, we had a couple of things happen, didn't we? One night, and this like painting panel fell down, and and then the door opened and closed and was banging, and I was jumping out of my skin. I'm not normally jumpy, but that night I was really jumpy.
Yeah, I was the same because, you know, as mediums, you can sense, you know, like Carl, you said you could sense that spirit was evil. You just get a sense of something. I didn't feel, and neither did Katie, that the spirit that was with us was evil, but there was definitely a really powerful presence, wasn't there?
Oh, definitely.
That night, honest to God, we all nearly passed out when this thing fell down. I mean, it was a big wooden piece of, it was like a door cupboard, wasn't it? But
it'd been painted, and how it fell, it was just, it couldn't happen.
And then we happened to notice that the room was literally steaming with dead flies, wasn't it? And that had never happened before. There was literally all on the windowsills, weren't they?
Yeah, it was horrible.
So this isn't summertime either. This is, you know, not when you'd expect to see loads of dead flies. So yeah, we were a bit creeped out. And you said you felt awful driving home, didn't you? Like, just uneasy.
Yeah, because we had another instance. I think it was that night. So Bev and I tend to arrive around a similar time, and Bev had happened to be there just before myself, and I got out of the car, locked up, went round to my passenger side and got my bag out. When we were going home that night, there was just mine and your cars left, and we were parked. My driver's door, you'd pulled in and I'd backed in, hadn't you? So our driver's doors were together. So we both walked round to our driver's door, and on the floor between mine and Bev's car was an air freshener that was out of my car. It's quite a distinctive one because it was custom made with my mud flaps. So I thought, oh God, I've probably knocked it when I got out of the car. But the thing was, we, arrived at just before 8, hadn't we? About 7:45. And this time it was about 10:15. It had been a damp night, hadn't it? I think it might have even been raining. It was cold. It was certainly like getting below zero. And this air freshener was warm. And we can't understand how it had got out of the cars because we hadn't even been in our cars at this point, had we, Beth? And it was there just laying. I picked it up and it was dry and warm. It was really bizarre. And that night driving home.
Yeah, I would have then put it back down on the floor and left it.
Would you? Yeah. It was that we had 2 weeks on the trot where the atmosphere in the hall was different, didn't we, Kate? And it was just strange. There were things, there were noises. I mean, there is activity in this hall that we go to anyway. We call them Casper, don't we? We'll often hear like little bangs and taps and things, but they're not out of the ordinary. But that particular night, and it's happened a few nights, like the clock will start to get louder, won't it?
Yeah.
So it's a ticking clock on the wall that just a random ticking clock, and then it'll just get really loud, won't it? These nights, and you're thinking, not for long, and you think
horror movies. That's horror movies. That is.
Is that what happens in horror movies? I don't watch them. I'm a scaredy cat.
Did you hear a large ticking clock go louder? Get out.
No, we stay there till we've got our money's worth, haven't we, Kate?
Definitely.
Yeah. But what about you, Karen? Have you had any sort of spooky experiences that have unnerved you? Sort of.
Well, no, I shall tell you a story. I'll tell you something that when I was in Ireland, and I was traveling there with my husband, and you know, when you want to go off, you don't want to go the touristy way. So we went down the back street, and there was this little pub down about 3-4 steps. Yeah, about 4 steps. And so we were going to go down there. We're just at the top. All of a sudden, I get this flash of this whole scene just before my eyes. I see the whole thing, and I see a few men playing, not men, guys, younger guys playing pool. And I was like, okay. And then I see this guy and this woman, young girl, against the bar. And they look at me and they start making out. Then they're looking at me, and then the guys at the pool table are looking, and they're getting mad. And they're like putting their pool sticks like and grabbing the balls. And then the pool balls. And then but wait, this is why too. So then he starts kissing her, and then all of a sudden he starts going down her blouse. Yes, is this going to be edited out? And so I was like, oh my God, I can't believe he's doing that. And then he looks at me and he's making her out with her, and he's putting his hand down her blouse, and he's feeling her up right there at the bar. And I was just like, oh my God. And I'm seeing all this. We didn't even go into the place yet. And my husband has his hand on the knob, and I'm like, no, we can't go in. And then he opens it up, and it's all the whole scene, everything that I saw when he opened the door. And the guy starts going down her blouse and looking at me like this. And then the guys go for I'm like, come on. And I pulled him away from the door. That was unnerving.
Yeah.
What's the name of that bar?
That was in the town of Clifton in Ireland.
Bad, Karen. Well, obviously somebody was giving you a little bit of a heads up there then, weren't they?
Yeah, because those guys at the pool, they didn't want us there. Put it that way.
Wow.
That was their private place. Yeah.
I don't know what to say about that. I've never had anything like that.
That was unnerving. Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine. So when I was first with my ex-husband, we were in a company house, and it was a really swanky company house. It was designed in a bungalow, but it was very American because we had a lot of American people over working for the company. It was an oil company. So we got this company house, and I was only 17. I was blown away by this. It was beautiful. It was fully kitted out. We had a big walk-in Westinghouse fridge freezer, and a lovely conservatory that overlooked the golf course, and beautiful bedrooms, en suites, things that at 17 I'd never seen. Anyway, it was really pretty. You remember coming to it, Carl? So everything was fine in this house. We were there for quite a few months, and everything was absolutely fine. Dave would go off to work all day. I would stay at home. I've got a couple of cats, and I was 17. I slept till about 2 in the afternoon. I would just, I think at that age you just do, don't you? And I'd read magazines and, just chill out. And obviously, 17, we were probably at it like rabbits for the rest of the time. Anyway, there was a point when my ex had got notified that he'd probably have to relocate. So we'd be moving out of this house. And that's when everything began to change. And it was daft things like the lights would flash on and off. And the pilot light to the gas, which was for the whole central heating and everything, would keep blowing out, and then you'd smell gas and you'd have to go and reignite it and stuff like that. And then this is a point I think Carl might remember. Dave and I got engaged, and Carl and his little mate Paul brought us this brandy glass, which they got engraved with our engagement details on. So yeah, I was really chuffed with that, And we had this in the sitting room. It was really, really long, and it had a very deep fireplace. And at the very far end of the room were patio doors out onto a front sloping lawn. And this particular day, this was when things started to really hot up. I'd put this brandy glass on the mantelpiece, and I was in the kitchen ironing. And I heard this almighty crash. Anyway, I switched the iron off, ran into the living room, and this brandy glass was smashed into smithereens, but it was right over the other side of the room. So it was just right over the other side. I was absolutely furious and heartbroken because I, really did treasure it. There was no windows open. There's no reason this could have happened. Then I go into the kitchen, and the iron's back on, and I knew I'd switched it off. But I could have easily been, distracted and may not have switched off. So I dismissed that. Anyway, I cleared all the glass up and, started to sort of feel a bit bad about that. And then I started to notice that our 2 cats wouldn't come into the house anymore. They wouldn't come any further than the conservatory. So they come in there, they'd eat their breakfast, but they literally wouldn't come into the main house. And then I started to notice doors shutting. You'd physically hear the door shutting. So it was quite an open plan place, and you had 2 doors in the kitchen. You'd go out of one and you physically hear the other one shut, and you'd go round and it'd be shut, sure enough. Stuff like that. And as with a young relationship, we used to have fallouts. And I remember this particular time having a really big fallout with him and going to sleep in the spare bedroom. And I remember it as clear as day, just laying down and hearing this little girl's voice saying, "I'll look after you." I absolutely crapped myself and ran back into the bedroom where my husband was. And I said to him, there's something going on in this house. It's really weird. And I've been having a lot of dreams as well that didn't make sense. Anyway, it was at this point he fezzed up and he told me that the previous people who'd lived in there had had to move out, and they weren't the first. They moved out because their child was being bothered by some activity. Anyway, long story short, it turned out there'd been a little girl that had died in the house in what would have been the ensuite shower in our bedroom, in that area. She died, and they never found out a cause of death. It was just death by misadventure. And this little girl who'd come to me, I'd been given a name, and it was the same name as the little girl that had died. Anyway, that was the point where I said, that's it, I'm moving out. I can't stay in this house anymore. It's starting to be really, really quite creepy. But it was absolutely fine till the point when we said we were moving out. So now in retrospect, I think this little girl was quite happy that we were there. It's only when we were starting to think of leaving. But there was one thing, and my ex was very much as well, feet firmly on the ground, didn't believe me. And I went away for a weekend. And when I came back, he was like, "Yeah, I believe you now." He had all manner of things happening, doors slamming, lights going on and off. Yeah. So, yeah. And I don't, we hear of poltergeist activity. I don't believe that was that, because there was a definitive spirit about it as well. What are your thoughts, guys?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was a little. Did she give you any messages though at all? Said anything?
No, not really, Karen. For the most part, I experienced her in my dreams, but it was as if I was her. Because I can remember at one point in one of these dreams, her mum was leaning over me and stroking my head. So it was like I was being shown her story. And I also remember looking out of the window in the dream at the view that was, we lived backing onto a golf course. But when I looked out the window from her perspective, it was all muddy fields. So it was like I was being shown stuff. As I say, I was only 17. It never made much sense to me. Now I look back. If I'm honest, I think there was probably something more to her death than met the eye.
Quite as well, just with your energy and feeding off your energy to be able to show you things. But with your age and not knowing much about what you do now, if you had been now, you'd probably been able to communicate with her. But I guess at the time.
And I think because it was most of the activity was coming in the dreams, I was losing sight of what was real and what wasn't. It was a very strange setup. But as I say, there was quite a lot of physical things. But when she did come to me in the spare bedroom, it was like she was kind of pleased that I'd fell out with Dave. And it's, I'll look after you.
Yeah, it's like she had a friend. Yeah. You were her friend.
Yeah. So yeah, and we moved out not long after that. And you remember coming to the house, Carl, don't you?
Yeah.
I mean, it was.
Did you see anything, Carl?
No. You could feel something, Well, yeah, I never saw anything, but you could feel something because me and my mate stayed over who bought the glass. Yeah, both of us were like, oh, there's something creepy about this house.
Well, Paul was like that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, it never looked on the face of it was beautiful. There was nothing that you would have said it had, beautiful furniture in. It was luxurious, but yeah, like you say, it definitely had that feel to it. Never felt like that when I first went there, but it did by the end.
It almost sounds like a movie, like say if something nefarious did happen to her, something, and she just wants somebody to find that out.
Yeah.
Trying to tell her story.
My hope is that subsequent people who've moved into the house will research it and hopefully be able to help her. And see. But my gut says that there was more to the death than met the eye.
I wonder if you looked that house up now, if you see how many owners since you've had that house, if there's like many.
Yeah, well, I remember years ago having a quick look because I think it was sold. I mean, when we lived there, it was a company house, and it only ever had like expats or people coming in,
Okay.
But I do believe it got sold and became a residential property after that. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see. But maybe being a residential property, maybe this little girl was happy for it to be settled.
A charge.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing your ghosty stories. I get tired of hearing myself talking about spooky things because I think people must think not one person can have that many experiences. And it's weird, isn't it? But then, if Carl was honest, he's had squillions. And some of the ones that I've had, even I think that sounds bonkers. There was the one where, and I think this was an angelic experience, where, Katie, actually, you might remember me talking about this, because I came to Bethel that night. But I was driving, it was when Mum was alive, and I was driving over to her house from here, and I was in my little soft top, the top one down now, and I've got Ruby, my dog, next to me. Anyway, we're pootering along, and I was going towards Lincoln, and Lincoln is a dual carriageway, and you come over a roundabout, and then the two lanes merge into one quite quickly. So I'd got over this roundabout. Sorry, I was coming towards this roundabout, and I put my foot down, and I'm overtaking, but it's a two lane, going past a lorry. And for some reason, on the roundabout, this lorry put his foot down and started to speed up, and I couldn't get enough speed to get past it. And the road was going into a single, so there was a bollard on the right. And I honestly thought I was a goner. I remember putting my hand on Ruby, and all I could do was say, I'm sorry. I just said sorry to Ruby, and I shut my eyes for a second. I honestly did. I thought, there's no way we're going to make it. There's a bollard coming up. He's going too fast. We're going too slow. We're going to hit it and we're going to die, because even going too slow, I was doing 70. And then with that, nothing. And I passed it with ease. How did that happen? I can't explain it. I literally can't explain it. Our number should have been up. I was apologising to my little dog for killing her. And I could see the bollard approaching. And then it wasn't there. We were just passed.
Very strange.
So for me, I just think there's some sort of a divine intervention. There's no logical explanation. You can't physically, I didn't turn into chitty chitty bang bang and fly over it, or, I was so shocked that I pulled over further up the road and I was shaking. I was just like, how did that happen? And the other part of me was like, why would a lorry driver do that?
I'm gonna have to go because my phone's gonna shut down.
All right, sweetheart. Thank you for joining us anyway. Love you.
Right. Lovely to see you all.
Bye.
Bye, Carl.
Thank you.
Bye. The reluctant medium. Yeah, so even things like that, divine interventions and that, you hear of that all the time, don't you? But to actually experience something like that, you're like, I can't explain it. But tonight, I just want to thank you both. It's been amazing. Hey, Katie, I'm interested. Where are you?
I'm upstairs in the office.
I was
Which
trying
is the one that's had activity.
Yeah, the portal.
Yes. Why? Have you noticed anything or?
No, but I remember when I slept in there and when I'd been in there, there was something you could feel it around the floor, like I don't know, a very strange feeling, wasn't there?
Yeah, it feels like it's spinning. So we have an activity of a little boy in here as well that's renowned for waking you up with his face right into yours, and he throws Lego, and my little boy won't sleep in here, hence why it's now an office.
And that's a new build as well, isn't it, Kate?
Yeah. We're very close to a ley line here, but I do think there's something. I've had a few mediums in here and said that they've felt all sorts in this room.
Yeah, I definitely did, and I've slept in that room.
Yeah.
But do you know what? I mean, sometimes as well, it's not always about the place. It can be about the medium or the people that are in there. Like I think our Carl's like a magnet for spirit. Katie, you, and I think Radley are probably magnets for spirit. You know, and I just think people are. I think this. You have a little light. I think that the spirit world see shining. You know, and just get attracted to. And Karen, you just get all the bonkers ones because I know you're bonkers too. I was trying to think where that story in Ireland was going. I was like, oh, where?
It was just exactly like I saw it in my vision of it all. It was crazy. I opened that door. Yeah.
No, it'd be really good. So for now, this has been Two Mediums.
A large universe.
Thank you ever so much.
All right.
And it's been lovely to catch up with you both and Carl.
You too. Bye. Bye. See you both. Bye.